Hello and welcome to Birth Stories of Japan. My name is Tiana and I am your host. This podcast is about giving birth in Japan, particularly as a foreigner or partly foreigner couple, where each episode will have one mum on the show to share their story. So please join me as we navigate through these stories and celebrate all the positives that come from them. For the very first episode, I've decided to share my own birth story with you guys, just so you can get to know me a little bit better and the journey and background that I come from. Honestly, my pregnancy journey was pretty lonely and pretty tough on me physically and emotionally. Our birth was long, so just over 38 hours in total, but other than that, it was exactly as I had hoped for. A natural birth, home style birth, and I had a really supportive team with my dream birth team. So my mum and my husband were allowed to be with me, and this was kind of at the end of COVID. So there were still some restrictions, but I was allowed to have them, and it made such a difference. But I'll get into the details soon. But first off, let me introduce myself. So my name is Tiana and my husband's name is Tu. We have a beautiful baby girl named Mellow. She was born in Sapporo on the 9th of September in 2022, and she's now 8 months old. So actually 1 month after she was born, we moved down to Tokyo. So I'm now based in Tokyo. We're all Māori from Aotearoa, New Zealand. And we speak Te Reo Māori to Mellow. We also speak English, and we're, I'd say, probably halfway through our Japanese learning journey in terms of language. We've been here for about 5 years now, but we're probably about at level N3. My partner plays rugby here, and I was working in television, but now I work as a freelancer. So I do remote edit work for companies back in New Zealand, and I also do a bit of family photography on the side. So if you're in Tokyo and want some family photos, please send me a message. I'll leave my details for that in the show notes. So yeah, that's a little bit about us, but I'm not going to waste any time. I'll just get straight into it with our pregnancy. So during COVID, we thought that it was the right time just to start a family. So we stopped being careful. I'd been off the pill for about 3 years. So I didn't have a regular cycle anymore. And we were trying for about 1 year and nothing was happening, which was a little bit disheartening. But around that time, we ended up getting engaged, which was really cool. But when that happened, it was like, okay, we should probably be careful again because I want to, feel good, look good if we're going to get married. So we were careful again. And then 3 months later, we were pregnant. And it was like, of course it happens now when we're not trying. So my signs that we were pregnant were, I had a tummy ache for about 3 days in a row. And so I decided to take a pregnancy test, and within seconds, the line, we all know the line was thick. It was dark and it was present. So that was a bit of a shock when we weren't expecting it. My husband was away. I couldn't hold it in, so I just called him, and that night I told him on video call. And yeah, we were so happy, so happy. The actual pregnancy itself, I'll get into that. So I was really excited and I was so stoked. And to be fair, the pregnancy itself went so smoothly. We hit all of our milestones. Everything was looking good. We never really had any problems there. But honestly, my whole entire pregnancy was very, very much overshadowed by something called Topical Steroid Withdrawal, or TSW. The condition is pretty much caused by overprescription of steroid creams by doctors, and that happened to me here by Japanese doctors and the Japanese medical care here that I decided to take. And instead of helping a rash that I had, it just blew my whole world apart, to be honest. All the way from head to toe, I was just in pain, itching, scratching, flaking skin, elephant skin, hair loss, a ridiculous amount of insomnia, and an extreme amount of anxiety, which I'd never experienced before. I had no family here to talk about it with or just to get support from, apart from my husband, who was the biggest supporter. But I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror, let alone look at him in the face, because I felt like a zombie. I looked like a zombie, and I felt like a zombie because I wasn't getting any sleep. I was just constantly scratching every single minute of the day. And it just really took a toll on me. So I felt very, very lonely. And I think it started to get better around month 6. So this is month 6 of TSW and month 6 of being pregnant. And it was a bit scary because I didn't actually understand what was happening to me. A lot of people going through TSW, we kind of have to just push through it ourselves because the medical systems don't often recognize them. And I was definitely at the worst mentally that I've ever been in my life. And it made me really sad because I always envisioned myself being happy and excited during my pregnancies, having this beautiful glowing skin and thick hair, and it was not the case. I stayed home pretty much all of my pregnancy. I pretty much stayed home indoors because I just couldn't face the world. And that was tough. Wow. The things that happen when you actually talk about stuff. But yeah, it was tough. And it was just a bit... and it just emphasized, like, my loneliness, to be honest. Not being able to talk with others about it. I can have convos with other people, like in Japanese. But when you're going through something like that, and also just pregnancy in general, you want to get deep sometimes. And so, yeah, that's when it really sunk in, like, okay, maybe I need to go home. Maybe we should go back home to give birth. But anyways, it is what it is. I was a part of the Itsan Facebook group, which if you're going through TSW, highly recommend it, and I will put that in the show notes. So if anyone else is going through a separate health condition whilst pregnant, my heart goes out to you because it is so, so tough. But back to the pregnancy itself, as I said, it went really, really well. So at the time, I was so glad that these hardships were happening to me and it wasn't on baby. But about the care. So first off, we went to Mariama Ladies Clinic, which was across the road from us. So we went and did our first scan there. And by the time we did that, I was actually about 7 weeks pregnant. And we heard the heartbeat and I just burst into tears because we'd only just found out from the at-home test that we were pregnant, like, I don't know, a few days before. So yeah, it was like, okay, this is all go. This is happening. I booked with the male doctor there. There's a female doctor there also, but the male doctor speaks English. He was fine. He was a little bit standoffish and kind of like laughed off my questions, which was annoying. But anyways, we could only be there for 12 weeks. So we moved then to NTT East, Sapporo Hospital. And the midwives there were lovely, like absolutely lovely. But it's quite a large hospital, so you just get whoever's on duty, which made it hard for me with my TSW because I didn't want to face new people. So I ended up taking a interpreter with me each time. So if you are in need of an interpreter for any medical appointments or issues, I highly recommend using SEMI. So they are an organization based up in Sapporo who will assign you a interpreter for your appointments, and they'll come with you and help you with anything to do with medical stuff. So I will also put their info in the show notes for you. But at our 20-week appointment, we decided to find out the gender because I just felt like it might make me a little bit more excited and a little bit more focused on the pregnancy itself and on baby. At the time, my husband wasn't allowed to come to the appointment, so I got them to write it down for us, and then when I got home, we opened it together, and that was so nice. It did actually work. It did get me more excited and more feeling like I was more involved in pregnancy life rather than sick life. And at NTT, we were at an appointment. I must have been about 28-ish weeks gestational, and one of the nurses or midwives there, she was saying how in New Zealand home births or natural births are becoming a lot more accepted, a lot more popular, and I was like, yeah, I really want to do one, but I couldn't find anywhere here in Sapporo. And she said, I know someone, I'll give you their details. So I got the details. The interpreter who was with me for that appointment called her after our appointment at NTT East, and we were booked for a visit. I think it was the following week. So at 30 weeks gestational, we went to Ekubo Midwifery Clinic, which is literally a home. It's a 2-story house. And upstairs are the birthing rooms. There's a tatami mat room. There's also like a Western style room with a bed. And then there's a third room, which is kind of like the common area, I suppose you'd call it, but you can also give birth there. And downstairs is where you go in and you have your visits. It's literally just a lounge, a kitchen, and then another area for where you do your scans, and it was amazing. So we visited Noriko Takamuro-san at her clinic, and from the very first moment I stepped in, I knew that we were moving to this clinic. Like, I was so at home there. I was also getting a lot better in terms of my skin. So that helped make it feel like it was kind of like a fresh start. Like, now I could really focus on the birth and the pregnancy. One thing I need to say about Ekubo is that they work in conjunction with Ina Ladies Clinic. So if you need to take your blood work that week, your appointment will actually be at Ina. In terms of the birth also, if anything abnormal happened, if we needed to take further steps such as a C-section, then we would have been transferred to Ina. And yeah, that was fine. Ina is also a really lovely clinic. I didn't attend any antenatal classes just because during COVID there were no ways for you to attend them with other people, as in I couldn't have an interpreter with me. I definitely had my share of good information and good resources behind me. But one thing that I did look into was hypnobirthing. So learning some breathing techniques and also like making my own birth affirmation cards. And that was really good. That actually helped me quite a bit. For the last trimester, I think I did the rose hip tea. And I tried to do the dates, but I just couldn't hack them. Like I got these dried ones. I should have got fresh ones. But I got these dried ones and they just made me feel sick. So I left those. I also did the evening primrose oil capsule. So I put that up the wahoo. I'm not sure if any of those helped, but I would do it again, to be honest. About a week before our due date, my mum arrives to Japan. And that really helps me get in the mindset of preparing for baby's arrival. Like, that really eased me into things in terms of, like, just feeling myself again and having that family support. We obviously didn't have a baby shower, but she brought over some gifts from family and friends, and that really helped as well. I had no maternity leave, so I'd been working the whole time throughout this as well. And looking back, I definitely should have given myself some more grace and some more rest, but it is what it is. And then, so we just spent the last week showing mum around, but it was nice just to be in our own little bubble, like mum, me, baby, and my husband. And then we hit 39 weeks and 3 days. And I wake up early in the morning, probably about 3 in the morning, just to go to the toilet, and it just won't stop. And I'm like, oh, okay. The peeing was obviously not pee, it was my waters. So they broke naturally around 3 in the morning. And I started having contractions straight from then. They were very consistent every 3 to 10 minutes. I told my husband, and I knew it was still very early stages, so I told him to relax, but of course he can't relax. He's up. He's ready. He's like, where's the bag? What are we doing? Should I have breakfast? And I was like, calm down. But anyways, we ended up messaging the midwife, and we went in at 9 in the morning, so me to mum. And she said, yep, you're definitely having contractions. Just take it easy. Let me know when things progress. So we went and had breakfast. We went for some walks along the river. Went home and just chilled out. I went for another walk with mum around Mariyama Koen. And then just honestly relaxed. Like, we watched Disney movies. We called my husband's side, let them know that labor had started, and I'm still having contractions this whole time, but they were still very chill. They were not intense yet. And so I just knew that we were in for a long one. And so now we're in day 2. Gestational wise, I'm 39 weeks and 4 days. And so everyone had gone to bed, and I'm just sitting in the lounge trying to go through the waves, trying to rest. And I just remember wanting support and not knowing how to tell people, or like just not wanting to be a nuisance. But then at about 3 in the morning, I decided to wake up my husband, wake up mum, ask them if we can go to the midwife. So we get there. I'm only 3 centimeters dilated, which sounded about right. And normally they ask you to go home. But mum could see it in my face that I was not keen. So she ended up asking, like, is there an option for us to stay or for Tiana to stay? And yeah, Noriko-san let us. And I'm so grateful. So me and my husband, we stayed in the tatami room. And then my mum stayed in the common, like, lounge kind of area on the, like, fold-out futon sofa bed. And I was able to get some rest finally. Waking up the next day, contractions were still very consistent, and they were starting to get a little bit more intense, but I knew I was still a while away. In my birth plan, I had asked to, like, keep the lighting low, to use some aromatherapy stuff like lavender and whatnot. And we also had a Spotify playlist, so just songs that would keep me relaxed. My birth team was amazing, absolutely amazing. And by this point, we're probably like at 30 hours now. And I could tell we were all exhausted. So what I ended up doing was one person, they were on massage duty. So when a contraction would happen, they'd just like go hard, massage that spot, whatever I needed. And then the other person would actually, after my contraction had finished, they had my affirmation cards and they would just read out one of the cards to me. And it helped a lot just to take my mind off the pain and just to refocus. Around lunchtime, that's when things started to really pick up. I remember going into the other room and just wanting to like take my pants off just to like get a little bit more comfortable, but the midwives wouldn't let me, and that's all right. But if you are wanting to do something like that at Ekubo, I highly recommend maybe wearing like a nightgown or something, or a dressing gown. And then I could feel baby's head there, like just out of nowhere, baby's head was there. And that was around about 4:30 p.m. And I was telling them, baby's head is there, baby's head is there. And they weren't really doing anything. And I was like, I can feel baby's head is there. Like she's pushing herself out. I'm not pushing her out. I'm just breathing. Like I'm just letting my body do what it needs to do. But she is there. And afterwards, I remember the midwives telling me that they didn't realize that baby's head was really there just because I wasn't like loud. I wasn't screaming or showing huge signs of pain and stuff. So in saying that, I think maybe the hypnobirthing did help me with that. And then finally they checked me, and this was about 5 o'clock. And at this point I was actually on my knees leaning forward to my mum. I was holding on to my mum, and she was sitting on the couch just in front of me. And then my husband was behind me, like massaging my back and stuff. So I was in a good position. They put like some pillows and stuff under my knees just so I could have that bit of comfort. And then my husband, he set up the camera in the corner just so we could video that, because that was a part of my birth plan. And so here is a bit of the birth recording that I'll just play for you now. And so after about 20 minutes of the pushing phase, at 5:36 p.m, weighing at 2,740 grams, our baby girl was born. So to help deliver baby and held baby first, and then he gave her to me, and then he was there doing prayer in Te Reo Māori and essentially just calling baby through. And I just remember like being so tired but also just really proud of us, like proud of myself, baby of 2, and my mum, just for going through that marathon. And I know that everyone says that the pushing stage is the worst, and definitely it is the most intense. But for me, I was just really relieved to finally be getting this baby out. I was ready. People talk about the ring of fire, like when baby's head is right there. But I was just told to breathe really fast, like and there was one time where I did that, and all of a sudden I was told that baby's head was out. Like I didn't feel the ring of fire at all. I will say that her umbilical cord was actually wrapped around her head when her head did come out, but I was told by the midwives not to worry. Later we found out that her umbilical cord was actually really long. So yeah, it was fine, which was lucky, which was good. There is just no way to explain the happiness and the joy. Oh, there's my baby. Mellow has decided to join us at the perfect time. She just woke up from her nap, so if you hear any babbling in the back, that's just her. How did you know we were talking about your arrival? Yeah, so Mellow arrives. Neither. And we were so happy. We had our hugs, we had our cries, we took some photos quickly, and then they laid me down and put her on my chest to see if she would have a feed, latch on, and she did. And that was really surprising. Like, wow, how does this baby know what to do? Hey! But she did so well. We had no problems with breastfeeding. So they then checked me and told me that everything looked really good and that I had no tears or anything, just a bit of a bruise. And I was very thankful for that. I actually attribute like our long labor to the fact that I didn't rip or tear, sorry. And she was a good sized baby, but she wasn't like a massive baby. So obviously that helped. I gave birth to the placenta. And my mum was the one to cut her umbilical cord. And we actually used something traditional to our Māori culture, which is a muka tie, instead of using like a plastic tie to chop off the umbilical cord, which is just essentially like a small string that's made out of a flax from back home. And so that was really nice that Noriko-san let us do that, because they were not going to let us do that if we were at NTT. One thing that we also wanted to do was to take the placenta with us, because in our culture we bury the placenta. Yeah, don't we? But we weren't allowed to do that. You're not allowed to take placentas in Japan. Apparently it's illegal. So instead we took the umbilical cord. So Noriko-san dried it out for us. The whole umbilical cord, dried it out for us, wrapped it up and put it in a box. And then we ended up burying that somewhere significant for us here in Japan. And so, yeah, in Japan they calculate the active labor time from when you have your first set of ongoing contractions till after you deliver the placenta. So for us it was 38 hours and 14 minutes in total. And it was all natural, no drugs or anything, vaginal birth and home birth style. My postpartum recovery was really good. The care at Ekubo was amazing. All the food was homemade. We stayed at Noriko-san's place for, I think it was 3 nights. And honestly, it just felt like home. 2 was actually allowed to stay with us for those nights. And so we were just in like our own little baby bubble, to be honest, that whole time. Something that I found a little bit shocking was like going to the loo. And I know everyone doesn't want to do their first poop. For me, it was actually okay. But I was really shocked at the fact that like bits of placenta were still like falling out of it. You just sit down and then it just like plops out. That was really interesting. But other than that, I'm super grateful for my recovery. It went really well. My dad and sisters, they were in Sapporo by then as well, so we could all catch up and they could meet baby. I think I was moving a little bit faster than the midwives wanted me to, but for me it just felt right. Like I had been antisocial and inside for the last 9 months. Now my family's here, baby's here, and I'm just ready to go out, you know. So We were also prepping to move to Tokyo, which we did about a month after Mellow was born. And yeah, that's actually where I kind of decided that I wanted to do my family photography stuff, meet some other mums. So yeah, everything's just really fallen into place. So it was really, really nice to have such a positive ending to what seemed like a never-ending and very lonely pregnancy. So all up for the delivery fee at Ekubo for us, it was 167,000 yen. This is after all the subsidies and things. We also actually ended up getting 100,000 yen worth of credit from Tokyo for the Akachan First Harmonic website, where you can use those points towards baby items listed on their site. And that was really cool, considering that we got here when she was 1 month old. Like, we didn't even give birth here or were pregnant here. So that was really cool. So yeah, all in all, we had a really positive experience in terms of our pregnancy, our care, and our birth in Japan. Mellow definitely agrees, I think. Yeah, so we just want to thank you so much for listening today. I hope that somebody out there is able to take something from it. I've already had a ton of interest from other mums who are ready to share their stories as well. We've got natural births, C-sections, baby blues or postpartum depression, water birth. Yeah, there's just tons of variety. So if you'd like to hear more, please subscribe or follow this channel. Also, if you give us a like or leave a comment, that helps heaps. This is only the beginning, so I'd love your feedback. We also have Instagram at BirthStoriesJP if you'd like to follow us there. And lastly, if you're a mama that has a story to tell, please send me an email at birthstoriesjp@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening. Bye bye!